Honest Advent, Chapter 13, Sacred, Luke 2, 30 through 31. My eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all peoples. I lived in France for a year when I was in my 20s. I lived 3 blocks from a cathedral, and I'm fairly sure I visited it every day. Granted, it was sometimes for 5 minutes, but the great thing about cathedrals in Europe is they're always open. Everything about a cathedral is on purpose, from the high ceilings meant to lift your gaze heavenward, to the cross shape of the building that brings all to the center altar, to the wooden kneeling benches meant for you to feel the mortal bones in your body. It's all constructed to create a physical experience of the story of God with us that has happened, is happening, and will keep happening forevermore. It is built in a way to let you know you're entering something sacred. What I also love about cathedrals is that they were constructed during a time when most of the population was illiterate. So the majority of the communication devices are pictorial and symbolic. There are some inscriptions and obviously a sacred text somewhere in the building, but mostly it is sculpture, paintings, and stained glass that are the preachers of those sacred stories, and they are amazing, beautiful, intricate. Yet they're surprisingly conformist in their style and interpretation of these ancient happenings. Partly it was because of the artistic style at the time. Partly it was the expectation of what sacred art is supposed to look like. I mean, how do you depict something sacred? To make something sacred is to give reverence to the weight of its importance. Something significant happened in our seemingly ordinary world, a meeting between the finite and the infinite that changes the way we understand the reality we find ourselves in. So to not forget it, we memorialize it, we set it apart, we honor it, and maybe add some shiny gold leaf in an attempt to let its message transform us still today. This is a helpful and necessary work that human beings have practiced since the beginning of existence. My only problem in the process of making something sacred is that we usually cut out all the really human stuff that is equally part of these divine happenings, especially in the art depicting the birth of Jesus. Most paintings of the newly born baby Jesus are of him sitting upright, clean and clear-eyed with a shiny halo around his head. And I get it. This kind of depiction looks way better in a painting than the newly born, alien-faced baby the doctor hands to you in the delivery room. And in the art depicting pregnant Mary as well. It's honoring to portray her as a well-rested and dressed in her Sunday best, rather than just waking up in the morning with an achy back and morning sickness breath. We will always take our most important stories and sacredly set them apart so we remember them for the rest of time. But this process becomes unhelpful when we separate our own fleshly humanity from the humanity found in these sacred stories. Because when we dismiss the aches and pains, the fluids and hair, the naked fleshiness under all the fancy clothing, we can dismiss ourselves from being ones who could also find ourselves in a sacred story. It's the meeting place where the Spirit of God meets every person, our physical bodies. If the Incarnation insists on anything, it insists that our physical bodies matter to God. Jesus was crucified naked. This was an intentional move, since nakedness was shameful, and the Roman soldiers were going after his humiliation. But honestly, none of us want to see the genitalia of the King of Kings when we enter into a communal worship space. So I get it, and I don't think we need to change the art. There is a holy reverence that implores us to put a loincloth on his beaten and pierced body, to return dignity and honor to so precious a form. But to be clear, this is editorializing the story. Even if it is only in our mind's eye, we must hold to a vision of an incarnate God crucified for all to mockingly see, or we will miss the deep, deep wonder of witnessing a God who shared the fullness of our naked vulnerabilities. Mary is worthy to be revered because she was asked to bear in her body the weight of sacred motherhood, and we will always whisper the wonder of that story. But let's not forget that sacred motherhood unfolded in her physical body with third trimester heartburn, swollen feet and ankles, insomnia, and fatigue. Let's give kindness to her body and kindness to our bodies as well, because your body, with all its fleshy, sweaty, hairy, nausea-prone, heartburn-prone, cellulite gloriousness, will be a part of the sacred story you will one day find yourself in. May the embrace of your physical body be remembered as one of your most sacred acts.